there, my beautiful, passionate travelers. Welcome to another episode of Energize Your Passion, where we dive into the things that set our soul on fire and fill our days with joy. I'm your host, Sunshine, and today we're talking about something that combines two of the greatest pleasures in life: food and travel. That's right, you heard me correctly. Food and travel. Because let's be real, is there anything better than experiencing a new place through its flavors, aromas, and culinary traditions? Nope, I don't think so. But that's my opinion. Whether you're rolling up your sleeves in a Parisian bakery, learning to make tamales in a bustling Mexican market, or exploring the hidden food stalls of Tokyo, these experiences go beyond just eating. They're about connection. Connection to culture, history, and even yourself. And today, we're diving into why cooking classes and food tours should be on everyone's travel bucket list. We're breaking this episode into 5 delicious segments, starting with why food experiences create unforgettable travel memories, moving into how they connect us with local cultures, then diving into the joy of learning new skills, exploring the unexpected, friendships that come from these adventures, and finally, wrapping it all up with key takeaways and ways you can start planning your next immersive travel adventure. Oh, and of course, we've got some incredible listener stories along the way. So grab your favorite snack, settle in, and let's get into it. Segment 1: The Power of Food Memories in Travel. All right, let's kick things off by talking about something we all know deep in our hearts. Food has a way of making memories unforgettable. Think about it. How many times have you smelled something and instantly been transported back to a specific moment in time? Maybe the scent of cinnamon reminds you of a holiday morning at home, or the smell of barbecue takes you straight to summer cookouts with friends. Our senses are deeply connected to memory, and when we travel, food becomes one of the most powerful ways to lock in an experience forever. When you sit down to a meal in a new country, you're not just eating, you're absorbing a story. That plate in front of you is just the result of centuries of tradition passed down through generations, shaped by history, climate, and the hands that prepare it. And when you take part in making a dish, whether by cooking alongside a chef or watching a street vendor craft it with precision, that moment becomes something more than just a meal. It becomes a memory. Ever notice how some of the best travel memories aren't just about what you did, but about what you tasted? Food experiences tends to carry emotional weight because they involve more than just our taste buds. They engage our senses. The warmth of a bowl of pho on a chilly Hanoi morning, the crisp bite of a fresh cannoli on a bustling Sicilian street, the smell of sizzling garlic drifting through the air in a Spanish tapas bar. These moments stick with us because they touch something deeper than just hunger. They bring a sense of place, a feeling, a connection to where we are and who we're with. And let's not forget the joy of trying something completely new. Maybe it's a dish you never thought you'd like sticky tofu in Taiwan or escargot in France. But the adventure of stepping out of your comfort zone makes the memory even more richer. Let me tell you about Jessica. She went to Greece on a solo trip and decided to take a cooking class on a tiny island. She wasn't sure what to expect, But by the end of the night, she was rolling grape leaves with a local grandmother, sipping homemade wine and laughing like she had known these people her whole life. To this day, she says every time she makes stuffed grape leaves at home, she's transported back to that little kitchen, feeling the warmth of the experience all over again. Now, isn't that amazing? Jessica's story is a perfect example of how food becomes more than just substance. It becomes an emotional anchor. That night in Greece wasn't just about learning to cook, it was about connection, laughter, and the feeling of being welcomed into a culture, even as a traveler from far away. One of the most incredible things about food is how it connects us to our own past, too. Have you ever traveled somewhere and tasted something that reminded you of home, even when you were thousands of miles away? Maybe it was a dish your grandmother used to make, or a flavor that instantly brought back childhood memories. Food has that unique ability to blur the lines between where you are and where you come from, giving us a sense of belonging no matter where in the world we find ourselves. Then there's Raj, who took a ramen making class in Japan. He thought he was just learning how to make noodles, but what he really took home was a deep appreciation for the patience and care that goes into every bowl of ramen. Now he makes ramen from scratch every month, bringing a little piece of Japan into his own home. Roger's story shows that food experiences don't just stay in the moment, they follow us home. They become part of our lives, part of our routines, and part of how we express ourselves. Every time he makes ramen, he's not just cooking, he's reliving that trip, reconnecting with that culture, and carrying that experience forward in his own way. There's a reason why people say, I don't remember everything I did on that trip, but I'll never forget that meal. Food has a way of etching itself into our memories more than sightseeing or even activities. Think about it. What stands out more? A tour of a historic building where you snapped a few photos, or that tiny cafe where you stumble upon the best croissants you've ever tasted? Those little moments of surprise when you take a bite of something that feels like a revelation are what sticks with us the longest. Even years later, one bite of a similar dish can bring a flood of memories rushing back. That's the magic of food. It's a time capsule, a sensory postcard from your travels. I remember more than 30 years ago, I went to Jamaica with a girlfriend. And what I remember more than anything was this red snapper dish we had. It was the best fish I had ever tasted then and now. Then we had a delicious, decadent mousse dessert. It was so smooth. I'm not a person that likes chocolate. My girlfriend, however, is a chocolate connoisseur. But it was so delicious. I can't even give you a description of how smooth and silky that dessert was. Chef's kiss. Just delicious. So, how can you make food a bigger part of your travel experiences? Here are a few easy ways to ensure your next trip is packed with unforgettable food moments. 1. Take a cooking class. Even if you're not an expert in the kitchen, hands-on experience will leave a lasting impression. Number 2. Go on a food tour. Let a local guide show you hidden gems you'll never find on your own. Number 3. Try something out of your comfort zone. Be adventurous. Taste the street foods. Try the dish you can't pronounce. Trust me on this. I have tried a lot of dishes that I couldn't pronounce. Seriously. Number 4. Ask locals where they eat. Skip the tourist traps and find where the real magic happens. Number 5. Write down or take photos of your meals. Keeping a food journal or snapping pictures will help lock in those delicious memories. So that's the thing about food. It's more than just a meal. It's an experience, a memory, and sometimes even a piece of home that you carry with you. And speaking of home, our next segment, we're going to talk about how food experiences connect us to culture in the most meaningful way. You don't want to miss it. Segment 2, connecting with culture through food. When you eat a meal in a new place, you're not just tasting the ingredients, you're tasting history, tradition, and stories passed down through generations. Food is so much more than just something we consume. It's a living, breathing reflection of a place and its people. Every dish tells a story. The flavors, the techniques, and even the way food is served reveal deep cultural roots that go back centuries. Think about it. Before modern transportation and global trade, local ingredients shaped the meals people ate. What grew in a region, what spices were available, and what cooking techniques were developed based on the environment all played a role in defining a culture's cuisine. That's why food is such a powerful connection to history. When you take a bite of something truly authentic to a region, you're experiencing tradition that have been longly preserved and passed down for generations. That's why food travel is so special. It gives you a front row seat to the heartbeat of a place. You're not just visiting a destination, you're immersing yourself in its soul. Every meal has a backstory. Have you ever sat down at a restaurant, taken one bite of a dish, and thought, wow, wow, there's something really special about this? That's because in many parts of the world, food isn't just about nourishment, it's about storytelling. Take paella in Spain, for example. What started as a humble dish cooked by farm workers in Valencia has now become an iconic representation of Spanish cuisine. The combination of saffron, rice, and seafood or meat speaks to the agricultural and coastal influences of the region. Every ingredient tells a part of Spain's story. Or think about Ethiopian food. How meals are served on injera, a soft dough flatbread with various stews placed on top. It's not just about eating, it's about communal sharing, a reflection of the deep rooted Ethiopian tradition of eating together with loved ones. When you sit down to a meal in a new country and truly engage in the food, you're not just feeding your stomach, you're feeding your understanding of the world. Take Angela, for example. She visited India and took a spice blending class in Jaipur. She didn't just learn about the different spices, she learned about their significance, how families pass down secret spice combinations, and how every dish tells a story. Now, every time she makes chai at home, she feels like she's carrying a little bit of India in her cup. This is such a perfect example of how food connects us to culture. Spices aren't just ingredients in Indian cuisine, they hold deep cultural and medicinal significance. Families take pride in their unique blends, often passing down recipes that are guarded like family heirlooms. For Angela, learning to blend spices wasn't just about making food taste good, it was about understanding the history, the purpose, and the emotion tied to each spice. The warmth of cinnamon, the boldness of cardamom, the fire of chili. It all tells a story about the land and the people who cultivate these flavors. Now, every time she makes chai at home, she isn't just sipping on a cup of tea. She's reliving her experience, remembering the people she met, and feeling connected to the place thousands of miles away. So often we take food for granted. We eat on the go, grab whatever is convenient, and rarely stop to think about how much care and tradition went into what's on our plate. But when you slow down and take the time to learn about food from the people who prepare it, you gain an entirely new level of appreciation. And then there's Matt, who went to Mexico City and took a taco tour. He thought he knew tacos until he met a street vendor who had been making a pasta for 30 years. Hearing the vendor passion, seeing the craft behind something so seemingly simple, changed Matt's perspective on food forever. Tacos are often seen as a casual, everyday food, but in Mexico, tacos are an art form. The marination process, the slow cooked meat on a rotating spit, the precise chopping technique, the perfect balance of toppings, it all requires skill, tradition, and years of practice. For Matt, meeting a vendor who had dedicated his life to perfecting a single dish opened his eyes to the true depth of food culture. It's easy to assume we know a dish just because we had a version of it before, but experiencing it in its place of origin from the hands of a master is a completely different story. When you eat locally, you're not just tasting better food, you're supporting the people who dedicated their lives to keeping their culinary traditions alive. You're honoring the grandmothers who have been making the same recipe for decades, the street vendors who wake up before the sunrise to prepare their signature dish, and the chefs who pour their hearts into every plate. Food isn't just about flavors, it's about history, identity, and cultural pride. And when you take the time to appreciate that, you walk away with so much more than just a full stomach. You walk away with a piece of that culture inside of you. Food is culture, it's identity, and when you take the time to learn about it, you walk away with a richer, deeper connection to the places you visit. But you know what's even better? The skills you take home with you. That's exactly what we're diving into next. How these experiences give you lifelong kitchen confidence. Segment 3, Learning New Skills That Last a Lifetime. Let's be honest, there's something incredibly empowering about learning to cook a dish from scratch, especially when it's a recipe passed down for generations. There's something magical about watching a dish come to life in your own hands. The transformation of raw ingredients into something flavorful and nourishing feels like an act of creation. And when that dish has a story, well, when it's something deeply tied to a culture, a family, or a tradition, it becomes so much more than just food. That's why cooking classes during your travel are such a unique experience. It's not just about the recipe itself, it's about the method, the intention, and the history behind each step. It's about slowing down, paying attention, and truly connecting with the process. How often do we just throw ingredients together at home without thinking about where they come from or why they're used? But when you learn to cook a dish in its place of origin from someone who has spent years mastering it, you gain a whole new appreciation for food as an art form. And the best part, you take that knowledge home with you. Every time you cook that dish, you get to relive your travel experience, bringing a little piece of the world into your own kitchen. There's a special kind of confidence that comes from knowing you can create something with your own hands. It's one thing to order an amazing meal at a restaurant, but it's another thing entirely to make it yourself and realize, I did this. Cooking teaches patience, creativity, and mindfulness. It forces you to slow down and engage with the present moment. You have to measure, mix, taste, and adjust, constantly fine tuning until you get it just right. And when you finally sit down to enjoy something you've made from scratch, there's a deep sense of accomplishment that can't be matched. That's exactly what happened to Emily when she took a pasta making class in Italy. Emily took a pasta making class in Italy and was shocked at how simple but meaningful the process was. Now, making fresh pasta is her happy place whenever life feels stressful. Emily's story is such a great reminder that cooking isn't just about the end result, it's about the process. Making pasta from scratch is an art form, it's also a meditation. The method of kneading the dough, rolling it out, cutting it into perfect shapes, it requires focus, but it is also deeply satisfying. She walked away from that class not just with a new skill, but with something even more valuable, a sense of calm and joy that she could tap into whenever life got overwhelming. Now, every time she makes pasta, she's transported back to that little kitchen in Italy, feeling that same sense of peace. And that's the beauty of learning to cook something during your travels. It's not just a skill, it's an experience that stays with you long after the trip is over. Some dishes require more than just knowing the right ingredients, they demand precision, patience, and understanding of balance. Then there's Sam, who learned to make sushi in Tokyo. He went in thinking it was just about rolling fish and rice, but he left with a whole new respect for balance, patience, and craftsmanship. Sushi may seem simple at first glance, just rice, fish, and a few extras, but there's an entire philosophy behind it. The rice has to be prepared just right. The fish has to be cut at a precision angle. Even the way the roll is assembled and shaped matters. For Sam, learning sushi making wasn't just about creating a meal, it was about gaining a deep respect for the discipline behind it. Every step had meaning, every movement had purpose. He left that class with more than just a new technique. He walked away with a profound appreciation for the dedication that goes into Japanese cuisine. Cooking classes aren't just about the food. No, they're about the stories, the people, the traditions behind the dish. When you learn to cook in another country, you're stepping into a living history lesson, one that engages all your senses. It's all about touching the ingredients, smelling the spices, hearing the sizzling of something cooking on a hot pan. It's about listening to the instructor talk about why things are done a certain way, because in every cuisine, there's a reason for each and every step. In Italy, pasta dough is kneaded by hand for a reason. It gives the right elasticity. In Thailand, fresh herbs are pounded in a mortar instead of being chopped because it releases more of their natural oils. In Japan, sushi rice is fanned to cool it down slowly because it helps the grain absorb the right amount of vinegar. Every detail matters, and once you learn these little things, you can't unlearn them. You bring them home with you. They become part of how you cook, how you think about food, and how you share meals with others. One of the best things about learning to cook abroad is that it doesn't just make you a better cook, it makes you a more thoughtful one. After experiencing the passion and care that goes into food in different cultures, you start to bring that same level of thoughtfulness into your own kitchen. You stop rushing through recipes. You start valuing fresh, high quality ingredients. You begin to see cooking not just as a chore, but as an opportunity to slow down, experiment, and enjoy the process. And of course, you get to share what you've learned with others. How amazing is that to invite friends over and cook them a dish you learned halfway across the world? To tell the story behind it and to explain the techniques, to bring a little piece of another culture into your own home. Food has a way of connecting us not just to the places we've been, but to the people in our lives. But beyond the skills, you know what makes these experiences truly special? The people. In our next segment, we're talking about the incredible friendship that can form over a shared meal. Segment 4: The Unexpected Friendships Food Creates. One of the most beautiful things about food is that it has a way of bringing people together across cultures, across languages, and even across continents. When you share a meal, you're not just eating, you're connecting. You're swapping stories, learning about each other's lives, and creating memories that last far beyond the trip itself. Think about it. Some of the best conversations happen over a shared plate of food. Whether you're at a street food stall or a cozy kitchen or at a long communal table, the experience of eating together makes barriers disappear. It's an instant icebreaker, a universal language that doesn't require translation. Cooking classes and food tours are some of the easiest and most enjoyable ways to meet people while traveling. Unlike traditional sightseeing, these experiences encourages interaction. You're working together, tasting together, and sometimes even failing together. Like when your souffle doesn't rise or your dumpling refuses to stay sealed. And those moments, they're the ones that spark laughter, inside jokes, and the friendship that can last a lifetime. When you sign up for a food experience, you might start off as strangers, but by the time the meal is served, you feel like friends. There's something special about being in a room full of people who share a love of good food, new experiences, and adventure. In a cooking class, you bond over kneading dough, seasoning sauces, and flipping crepes. Everyone is in it together, helping each other along, exchanging tips and celebrating the small wins. And even when things go wrong, and they will, like an overcooked dish or a broken tortilla, it becomes a moment of shared laughter instead of stress. Food tours, on the other hand, creates a different kind of camaraderie. As you move from one vendor to the next, sampling new flavors and discussing each bite, conversations flow naturally. You start sharing recommendations, talking about past travel, experiences, and before you know it, you've built connection over a shared love of discovery. Michael met his best travel buddy in a Parisian pastry class. They bonded over failed croissants, and years later, they're still great friends. Some friendships happen in the most unexpected ways. In Michael's case, it all started with a simple baking class in Paris. What began as a lighthearted attempt to master the art of the perfect croissant turned into an unforgettable connection. They helped each other through the process, laughing at their mistakes, cheering when the pastry finally turned out right, and discovering a shared passion for food and travel. Years later, they still meet up for food-inspired trips, proving that a single experience can lead to lifelong friendships. Sophia took a food tour in Vietnam and ended up sharing a meal with a group of strangers who felt like family by the end of the night. Sophia's story is another perfect example. She booked a food tour in Vietnam, expecting to enjoy amazing flavors, but she got so much more than that. By the end of the night, she had shared a table with people from all over the world, trading stories between bites of pho and spring rolls. What started as a group of strangers quickly turned into a temporary family. And the best part, many of them stayed in touch, continuing to share their love of food and travel long after the tour ended. There's something about breaking bread with others that turns simple meals into meaningful experiences. Friendship that form over food are different. They're built on shared enjoyment, mutual appreciation, and often a willingness to step outside comfort zones. Even if you don't stay in touch forever, these small moments of connection add richness to your journey. Maybe it's the street vendor who shares their personal recipe with you, the fellow traveler who recommends a hidden food gem, or the local chef who invites you to their home for a meal. These connections remind us that travel isn't just about places, it's about people. So the next time you book a cooking class or food tour, go in with an open heart. You never know who you'll meet or how a simple shared meal could turn into a memory that lasts forever. Food connects us to ways we never expect. And now, as we wrap things up, let's go over everything we've learned today and how you can start planning your own immersive food adventure. Segment 5, Key Takeaways and our call to action. All right, let's break it down. Why should you book that cooking class or food tour on your next trip? Travel isn't just about seeing new places, it's about experiencing them. And there's no better way to do that than through food. When you dive into a culture's cuisine, you're not just filling your stomach, you're filling your soul with stories, traditions, and connections that last a lifetime. Think back to some of the best meals you've ever had. Were they just about the flavors, or was it the atmosphere, the people, the emotion tied to that moment? That's the power of food. It takes an ordinary trip and turn it into something extraordinary. Food memories make travel unforgettable. Whether it's the first time you tasted something completely new or the moment you master a recipe in a foreign kitchen, those memories will stay with you long after the trip is over. Check. Food connects you to culture and history. A dish isn't just a meal, it's a reflection of a country's past, its people, and its traditions. When you learn how a dish is made, you gain a deeper understanding of the place itself. Check. You gain new skills that last a lifetime. Cooking isn't just a travel experience, it's a skill you take home with you. Every time you recreate that dish, you relive your adventure and share with others. Check. You form unexpected friendships. Whether you're bonding with the locals over a shared meal or making lifelong friends in a cooking class, food has a way of bringing people together like nothing else. Check. Before we close, I want to share a story of my own. When I became an adult and started traveling on my own internationally, I was about 25 years old. Yeah, still a baby. I still remember all the places I have traveled to mostly because of the food I ate. Not every experience was pleasant, just being honest, but each one was unique to its destination. And that, my friends, are the part of your trip you want to hold on to. So don't sit back waiting for the perfect time or the right people to travel with, because the perfect time is when you are ready. Your life experiences only need you to move forward. So here's my challenge to you: start planning your own food experience. It doesn't have to be a trip halfway around the world. It can be as simple as taking a local cooking class, exploring a new cuisine in your own city, or trying a recipe from a different culture at home. The important thing is to take that step. Open yourself up to new experiences and let food be the bridge that connects you to something bigger. And hey, if you love this episode, please give us a 5-star rating. Share it with your fellow foodies, and let's keep this passion alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep fueling your passion. This is Sunshine, signing off.